Welcome to Mind, Mood and Food podcast. I'm Margaret Bell, founder of Naturally Empowered Health, gut health expert, anti-diet coach and author of True Taste. And I'm here with my partner in crime, Adele Derbyshire.
Hello, I am the founder of Find Your Inner Sparkle. I am a yoga teacher and a spiritual teacher, and I help people to reduce anxiety, stress, and overwhelm, and to fall back in love with themselves and gain confidence.
Hello, and welcome to a new podcast today. Today, what the heck is human design? Now, both me and Adele have delved into this somewhat. We've both got our own profile, which is quite the same.
Yeah, she's scarily the same.
But I'm gonna let you go into this, Adele. What exactly is human design, and I think how can it actually benefit people? Because I know from my point of view, it's already benefited me in quite a lot of ways.
Yeah. So I only really discovered human design in the last year or so. I'd heard someone talk about it and I thought the name of the podcast, what the heck is human design? So I had a little look into it. And I love things like this personality profiling, Myers-Briggs, astrology, a Chinese star sign, all of the things. So there's lots of different ways to kind of paint a picture of who we are. And I think you might think, well, why do I need to do that? I know who I am, but I don't think we do because we get conditioned from being tiny. And this is why I think I love it so much, because it's not just like, whereas astrology is quite broad, you've got like the 12 star signs, and you might think, oh, I'm an Aries and I know another Aries, and we're quite different because it depends on where you were born in that month and what your rising sign and all the rest of it. So if you just look at it broadly, you can sometimes think, don't believe in that. It's all woo-woo. But the human design it's actually melding science with the woo-woo. So it's a combination of quite a few different things, like the Chinese I Ching, is it called? And then you've got a few different actual components, but it was I can't want to say created, but it was kind of downloaded by a guy called Ra Uru Hu in the 80s. And he, like people that are seers or enlightened people really that get this kind of download, A Course in Miracles was written the same way, which is another absolutely brilliant book and system. They get this kind of download from source, from God, whatever you want to believe in. They don't even know where it's coming from. They just write it all down, and this story comes out. So this complex system, really, because it is complicated. So we're not going to get into the nitty gritty of it today. It's really just to give people a pique people's interest, give people a taster, and to understand, like you said, why it might benefit. So with the conditioning, you might be born with a perfect design that you were meant to be, that you were meant to live your life as this kind of like person, this unique person, but it gets covered up by all of the conditioning. So you might be a certain way, you might be really outgoing, really chatty, really curious, I don't know, really chatty because your throat center's defined, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But you get told to be quiet because you're too loud, and it doesn't fit in with other people in your family or your tribe because they're different to you. They might be a different design. And they've got their own conditioning as well. So you start to change and tweak who you really are to fit in. It's a survival thing. So if you want to uncover and peel back those layers, and we often come to this kind of a bit later in life, in our 30s, 40s, 50s, and go like, do you know what? You've tried living this certain way. You've tried a few jobs that really don't light you up and fill, your soul, and you feel like you've got this calling, or you just don't seem to fit into the system anymore, and you're just not sure. And we start to question and we think, well, why am I here? And what is my purpose?
What am I
I
here
want,
to specifically do?
yeah, I
Sure,
want to feel
surely there's a little
fulfilled.
bit, surely there's a little bit more out there.
Yeah, I've done you go just into this job that your parents might push you into when
Mm,
you leave school or college or whatever, or then you just stay there because it's like, well, it pays the bills. You
mm.
don't really love your life. You just work to go on holiday a couple of weeks a year if you're lucky with the prices of holidays these days. And then you find this system that when I have my reading done, you suddenly feel absolutely seen. It's like
Yeah.
someone's peered into the depths of your soul, and you're just like, oh, wow, that
How
is.
the hell did that know
Well,
that?
I didn't even know
Mm,
that was me
yeah.
because
Hmm.
I've been busy covering it up for so long.
Yeah.
So like there's four types or five types because some people put one of the types under one of the other main umbrellas.
Yeah.
But when you get so the first thing you'll need to do is get your reading done, a bit like when you've got a little Myers-Briggs, you can put it in and you can answer all these questions. So you can go online and get what's called a body graph done.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say where I got mine from because it's
I've got I've actually got my human design book in front of me. Was it geneticmatrix.com?
no, so that might be
Mm,
another one.
mhm,
Mine was Jovian Archive, so Jovian
mm.
for November. Jovian Archive Human Design. So when you go onto that website, jovianarchive.com, it's just got you just fill in your detail. So
Mm.
you need really to know the time you was born. That's the only problem with some people because you
Yeah.
might think I don't know, I can't ask, my parents aren't here anymore or whatever. So there are ways around it where they can kind of like estimate it and things. So all
Mm.
is not lost if you don't know the time, but you need your date of birth, obviously, um, and the
Where you
time
were
of birth
born?
if possible, and
Yeah.
location. And
Mhm.
this is all important for pinpointing. It's kind of like where the stars and the planets were and things like that. And it goes into then kind of two sides, and you've got like this um one side which is at the time you were created, like that
Yeah.
kind of conception, and then the time you were born. So there's a couple of different sides. Now it's really complicated. It gets into gates and channels, and there's a
Yeah.
lot to it. I've got this huge book here. This is a really good book, by the way, if you are interested in it. This is by I don't know how you say it, but Chetan Parkin,
Mhm.
Chetanparkyn. And it's got everything in it. If you want to do like self-study, it's really good. But if you once you've got your design profile, you'll see like a picture of it looks like a bit like a person, but with all these triangles and squares and shapes and things. And
Yeah.
some of the blobs are coloured in and some aren't coloured in. Um, then the first basic thing to understand is what your energy type is.
Mm.
So your energy type is either a manifester, a generator,
Yep.
and underneath the generators, we have manifesting generators, which are a combination of those first two.
Yep.
Then you've got projectors and then reflectors.
Yeah.
So reflectors are really rare. So there's only like estimated 1% of
Yeah.
population as a reflector. So they're very rare.
We're
Pro
still quite rare though, aren't we?
Yeah, we're quite rare. Projectors about 21% of
Yeah.
population and only been around since 1781. So before
Hmm.
1781, there were no projectors.
That's very precise.
There was no like need for them. So
Oh, fair enough.
the world was kind of like all about survival. And
Yeah.
then projectors came along to be
Mhm.
showing people a new way as kind of like a leader
Yeah.
and,
Mhm.
like a different role. Before that, we really needed generators and
Mhm.
manifestors. Manifestors that were the leaders of the time to do things. It was all
Yeah.
about doing, putting things, creating things, putting things out into the world, obviously inventing things. And generators are the doers, the
Mhm.
workhorses. So it stands to sense then that projectors struggle because
Yes.
the world was created, the systems that were created were by generators
Mhm.
and the leaders of the time, manifestors or manifesting generators. And they wanted to work all hours God sends to
Yeah.
like the leaders would be like putting the generators to work. The generators would have no problem with it really because they had all this energy and they wanted to, you know, use that energy. Generators need to use that energy, otherwise they don't get a good night's sleep and things like that. So it's important for generators to kind of like do.
Yeah.
So sometimes if this is the thing, you hear cultural conditioning and people obviously will say to get a good night's sleep, wind down before an hour before bed, which I would say as well.
Mhm.
But sometimes for certain people
That doesn't work.
that's not good, because you'd be all right going to the gym and running on the treadmill or whatever, or just getting some work done or whatever you want to do before
Yeah.
you go to bed, because you need to tire yourself out like a
Yeah.
Duracell bunny. Whereas projectors, we need to work less.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's really hard. I know Margaret and I are both projectors, and we were laughing about this the other week when we discovered
Oh
it.
yeah.
Because even in, so having worked in corporate for many years, I now can see like, oh yeah, like I always felt trapped, like I was in
Mm.
prison. Not that it was like awful, as in
No.
it was like a prison and it was terrible. I don't mean that. I mean the clocking in and the clocking out. I would go out at lunchtime for kind of like 30 minutes, whatever I was really allowed, because I needed
Mm.
to like, work enough to clock my hours
Yeah.
up. And I remember, like, yes, I literally thought about this yesterday, but it was sunny yesterday. I was walking the dog and I was like, yeah, I have to go back because I had an appointment at 2 o'clock or something. But it reminded me of the time when I had to go back because I just had to show my face and clock on.
Yeah.
And I'd be sat with the sun on my face, just thinking, just one more minute, just one more minute, and just those little clocks ticking down where
Mm.
you can't sit in the sunshine, you have to go back to work. And this 9 to 5 um, cultural conditioning, I've kind of like brought that with me into my own business. It only recently occurred to me that I'm not only that,
Yeah.
but probably working more because
I
you
know
don't
what you
clock
mean.
off. So
I
I'm
know what you
I'm
mean.
I'm doing my 9 to 5. I'm like, well, I get up in the morning and I do my thing. I'll clock onto I sit at my desk and do my work. Then I'm teaching at night because I
Mhm.
teach yoga. Then I'll be working at the weekend because I need to do some planning for the week. And it's like, oh yeah. And you kind of love it really because it's your
Yeah.
own business and you want to keep doing and creating and staying on top of things. But you have to remember that your energy type might not fit that. So then you suddenly realize,
Yeah.
why am I exhausted? Why do I need to take a week off or 2 weeks off because I've burnt myself
Yeah.
out?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
being aware of your energy type can really help you with your job, just understanding that you might need to take a few more breaks. If you can't just get out of the 9 to 5 job right now,
Mm.
that's fine. Just work a way around it where, at least understanding who you are and what you're here to do and what your design is, it just makes you go like, oh, thank God
It
for that.
does.
Like I feel understood, I feel seen, and now I understand
Yeah.
like why I feel so utterly exhausted when I try and fit myself into this, a square peg in a round
At
hole.
all. Hmm.
And
That that
society's not caught up to this yet, so everything's still set around this, Monday to Friday. So I've just recently thought I'm gonna remove commitments on a Friday. I've got a couple of things that are
mm,
naturally coming to a close on a Friday. Why would I fill that again? I could
yeah.
take that day off and make a nice long weekend if I want to. So
Definitely.
why don't
Mhm.
I do that? Because I can. But this conditioning is I'll fill my
No.
diary
Yeah.
because it's Monday to Friday, it's work week.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, but you've got to look at your programming, your conditioning when you see your design,
Mm.
and understand that you're different, and what makes you different when you look into it at some depth. It's a gift. It's like if you understand who you are and the magic that is you and what you're here to do. So the human
Mm.
design blueprint gives you all this information, and you can take that and you can live your design, and you could the people that I've learned it from say about experimenting. It's not about putting you in a box. It's about saying, look, this is what your design is. Why
Mhm.
don't you have a play with it? Just tweak a few things. See if your life is better if you live your design versus, trying
Not.
to
Yeah.
butt up against your design and
Hmm.
do the opposite. See if you
Yeah.
feel happier, more energized, more fulfilled, more like you're living your purpose and your authentic self. So it helps you to really embrace your true nature. You'll feel happier, more fulfilled, and more accepted.
Yeah. definitely. I've learned so much from mine, specifically with you, me being a projector.
Mm.
Um, one, we're designed to work for around about 3 or 4 hours a day. That's
Yeah, which
still getting work
is
done.
the work in progress. I keep thinking if I could just work the mornings, because I'm better in a morning
Yeah,
than afternoon. So if I could
absolutely.
get myself, but running your own business, how do you fit everything into just a few hours a day? So we're still stuck really with that conditioning, aren't
Mm,
we?
yeah, which is definitely work in progress for sure. But it's also, as I found out, waiting for the invitation.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, isn't it? I think as projectors, this waiting for the invitation is tricky because you do need to still put yourself out there into the
Mm,
world, which I think you can do. You can
yeah,
put content out there and sort of talk about what you do. But until somebody kind of asks you and says, can you tell me about this and what's your opinion, you'll not feel you won't feel seen. And this is
yeah,
something that when I learned about this was my biggest aha moment, because I
mm,
often feel that I'm talking a completely different language
yeah,
to other people. And when I used to be in my corporate job, the amount of times that I would speak in a meeting and say something that was like, a really good idea or something that we
mhm,
should be doing, then it would be completely ignored as if I'd just not spoken. Someone else would say it because I used to think it was this male female thing because it'd be a man that say it. Everyone would go, "Oh, that's a good idea," and I'd be the amount of times I would look, I'd be like saying to my friends afterwards, "Didn't I just say that?" And I understand now. It's a bit like because kind of I wasn't asked. I don't know. It's this not being seen and feeling kind of invisible is because you need to wait for that invitation, but that can
yeah.
be really frustrating.
Oh, yes, it can be.
But at least if you understand, it makes you then feel like you're not a complete, because it,
Yeah,
it affects you otherwise. You feel it knocks your confidence. So to me, not being heard and not being seen, um, understanding where that comes from has helped me with my confidence
definitely.
and, helped me to feel I have got gifts and talents, and it's just that you need to learn how to express them. So, yeah, you've got your strategy, that our strategy is wait for the invitation.
Yeah.
So, you can find out your energy types, find out your strategy. So, there's a
Find out
different
even your
strategy.
Found out even your profile as well, which is a whole.
Yeah, yeah. Then you've got your profile, which I think, are we the same with that as well? Where
I'm a role model, stroke hermit, so
yes,
it sticks
exactly.
to. Oh
Yeah,
my word.
yeah, exactly. So the authority is mine is a spleen authority, which is
Yep.
a
Hmm.
real instant gut
Yeah.
feel
It's
and a
it's
quick
either it's
response.
it's either yes or no straight
Yeah,
away.
and it's catching that because if you then let your mind
Wonder.
interfere and think too much, which is what I do,
Mhm.
you've missed that gut feel.
Yeah,
And sometimes you
absolutely.
don't trust the gut feel, so it's learning to trust that gut feel
Hmm.
and respond quickly, which I think that's taking practice and skill to get used to.
Definitely
So
is.
yeah, there's lots in there, and then you can look at all your gates and so what you can do is you can get a reading done. So if
Yeah.
people are interested, I'd get your basic body graph done so that you understand which one of those you are, and then you can do a little bit of looking on YouTube and Googling and things like that. But then I would get a reading done. And if people want to know who I got my reading done with, or who Margaret you got yours
Hmm.
with, because I think they were different, they can definitely get in touch and we can recommend
Absolutely.
people. As I said before, this is something I'd like to do. I'd like to do the training in myself because I absolutely love it. And I think it just really helps people. It helps with your coaching when you're working with a client to
Oh, definitely.
understand who they are and what their makeup is.
Yeah.
So you can learn about yourself, but just before we finish, what would be useful is to learn about other people in
Hmm.
your um, environment. So,
Definitely.
learning about your partner, learning about your children, when you understand those differences, it's
It all fits
really,
into
really, yeah,
place.
it's like you can be more empathetic, you can be more patient, you can explain who you are, who they are, and what the differences are.
Mm.
And my son's a projector and very
Mm.
similar to me. And when I understood that, yeah, but they're fitting into this workhorse life of all day at college, all he's working all night and things. He does work for McDonald's and stuff. So I have to try and encourage him to switch off and take rest and take breaks because he's
Mm.
soon becomes tired. Whereas if you didn't know that, you'd be like, oh, you're only this age, you should be able to just keep going and what's the matter
Yeah,
with you? And so it helps you
very
parent.
much a misconception.
Exactly. So yeah, it's a absolutely fascinating topic. I'd love to come back to it and to maybe dig
Oh
a little
God,
deeper
yeah.
into some of the energy types and things like that. If people are interested, do let us know. Let us know because we have to leave it there today because it's a minefield of information. But it is brilliant and it can only really enhance your business, your job, your life, your relationships. It's really good and it's very scarily accurate.
Very scarily. Oh my God,
You'll
very
be like,
scary.
oh my God, they know me better than I know me.
But it's definitely a decision-making tool and
Yeah.
ultimately how to live as your true
How to
self.
live your
So
true authentic self, how to
yeah.
live your best life, how to live out your purpose, what were you here to do? Like projector role profile hermit. Like we are, I'm meant to do a certain live a certain way up to 40, 50. I think it's about 50 that you start to what they call sit up on the top and
Yeah.
master your craft, and then you're here to teach and to guide. And how funny is it that I started doing this and you started doing this kind of job before we read into this, before we
Yeah.
knew? And then you look
Really.
at your age because it's only approximate, I'm nearly 47, and
Mm.
I'm like, this is just weird. This is exactly what I'm doing. I've
Yeah.
lived a certain life that I don't want to live anymore. And I've retreated back and done a lot of research and investigation into spirituality and yoga and mindset and how to heal and help anxiety and depression without the need for meds and stuff like that. And that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it's when you read your profile, you're like, that's what I'm meant to be doing. I'm in the right place rather than second guessing everything.
Yeah. We are now in the conscious role model
Yeah,
stage,
yeah,
teaching from our experiences,
exactly.
which just says it all.
Just unbelievable, isn't it? So please do go and investigate your energy type. And I would love for you to either drop it in the comments of where you're getting your podcast from, if that's possible. I don't know if that on Spotify and iTunes it
Mhm.
works like that. If not, get in touch, send us a little quick
Absolutely.
DM, and definitely give the podcast a little like and a little subscribe. That
Please
would
do.
really help us enormously.
Thank you very much, Adele. That was a bit of a deep dive. I'm damn sure we'll go back to it because crikey, we've only scratched the surface
It
with that
was a
one.
shallow dive, yeah. It was definitely not a deep dive because there's so much to it.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Loads and
yeah, I
loads still
think
to come on that
just
one.
find out if people are interested and then we can come back
Yeah,
to it. Just let us know.
definitely. Thanks a lot, Adele. Um, definitely one to put out there for one or two more. So let's see what people think. And I'll see
Yes.
you next time.
See you on the next one. Bye for now.